Where is? I need to mute you there.
There it goes. It is 9:30 on a Thursday night, and you are tuned in to Beltway Radio and Beyond, which can mean one and only thing. Ding, 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 ding. This is ChipChat. Welcome to ChipChat, everybody. I'm Chip. Who are you, Tez?
You just told him, buddy. What is up, everyone?
Hey, happy Thursday.
Happy.
Happy.
Interesting. Very interesting choice. of
Happy,
word.
happy, joy.
Yes.
Oh, that's what
Thanks,
it is.
Stimpy. So, yeah, we're coming to you live from our remote locations, but still within the DC area. So we have to say that it isn't that happy a day because last night, while I was down here sitting in this exact same seat working on this exact show, I saw an alert come across the newspaper website that said that there had been a plane crash. And then I looked and saw some of the information about it, and it was bad. It was bad. And it, locally, I think that the whole country is sort of paying attention to this, but locally there's a lot of, I don't know exactly how to say this, but like a lot of feelings that we all have about this, apart from it being the terrible loss of life. And some of the people, I mean, it was 67 people. There's a lot of us who are going to be touched by this, who have connections to the people who were lost. But many of us fly in and out of National on a regular basis. And so this feels very personal in a lot of ways. And we see these helicopters flying over our airspace all the time. They go right over my house all the time. And when I used to play softball in East Potomac Park, they would be doing the exact training exercise that was happening last night is the thing that they would be doing, and then flying like right over us in the outfield. And so it all it's much more tangible, I think, to me this time than any of the other sort of plane crashes that I've ever really been alive for. So this one hurts pretty bad. And I don't think that, people are like, oh, well, thoughts and prayers are with the victims of it. I sincerely hope that those thoughts and prayers are not the same ones that they use for gun violence, because those don't do shit. But it took less than 12 hours for President Tiny Hands to make this into a catastrophe about him whining about the 2020 election somehow. And misquoting information about everything and blaming dwarfism or whatever the fuck he was on. It, to say that he's a disrespectful ghoul of a person, there's even a stretch. I wouldn't call him that, because he's not a person. The way that he has, if you watched him, even like his moment of silence, he looked like impatient. He didn't want to even do that. He didn't want to grieve for this. He just wanted to get on to like yelling about Obama or something, rather than even just addressing the profound sadness of the incident. That is still, they were still pulling human beings out of the river at the time that he was given that press conference. So just the dumbest possible response. And he was kind of all over the place. He was like, oh, the helicopter pilots should have been able to see something. The towers should have seen something. Biden made them use mentally handicapped people for air traffic controllers. And it's like, dude, pick a lane. I don't know. Here's what we do know. The tower was understaffed. The tower is frequently understaffed. That's the case, that the air traffic controllers in this country are working at about 80%. They're missing a lot of people. Hiring has picked up in the last few years because of some incentives. partially because of this DEI thing that he somehow misquoted and drastically misunderstood. People who don't have legs can still be good air traffic controllers. That's what that initiative was about, is to find people who might be good at this thing, but not have, all of their other faculties with them. Doesn't mean that they can't do this, right? If you're missing an eyeball, maybe not a great air traffic controller. If you're missing a limb, probably fine. You can probably look at the screens and talk, right? So that's kind of what that was all about. He drastically misinterpreted that on purpose. He absolutely, well, I don't know if he knows better, but the people who told him what to say know better. And then Hegseth and Vance and Duffy got up there, and I don't know what to even describe what they did. It was nuts, and just like pompous and bonkers, really. I mean, there's just no other way to describe what they did. But anyway, the tower was understaffed. The plane was on an approach that is a pretty common approach. All of the pilots, both in the airplane and in the helicopter, were experienced. This was not their first rodeo in this airspace. This airspace is terribly congested. Anybody who's ever flown out of national or international has experienced the delays. It's one of the most delayed runways in the country because of how many flights are taking off. It's a very small space. The rules about where the airplanes can be relative to other things in the space around the DC area is very, very tight, very constricted. It's altogether a very tough situation. Congress just added 5 more flights to it.
I was going to say,
which is very helpful. Ted Cruz likes the ones that go to Cancun, of course. So it is just, it's so many things all kind of layered on top of each other. It's not clear exactly where the fault is. It appears that the helicopter lost visual contact with the airplane, but beyond that, we don't really have any more details, and anybody speculating about it is really doing a disservice to everybody involved. So I don't want to really do any of that except to say that what Donald Trump has done for this at his first opportunity to be consoler in chief and just be like a regular person and say this tragedy is terrible, we're going to get to the bottom of it, we're going to get the experts involved, and we're going to make sure that this isn't the political boondoggle. He couldn't do that. He made it into a thing about him. So that's it.
There's no expectation for that, though. I mean, no, we already know that there's inability for him to be able to do that. And I guess to touch back on like the first point around what that means for individuals living in this area, like that same day I was down on the wharf and I was watching again helicopters and the planes are nonstop.
Yeah,
that come in and out a national, and yeah, to that point there, it definitely it struck differently because you see that, and it becomes such a natural, normal occurrence that you don't think twice about it. And I think in this country, and rightfully so, and I think the numbers back this up as well. Like air travel is extremely safe. There's a reason that it's extremely safe. But we also know that over, I would even say maybe the last 3 years, like there have been talk of this near misses of other and everybody has been saying like, hey, we're already understaffed because obviously the pandemic and the shock that had to the system. And prior to that, I mean, again, there could still be more. A lot of people were aging in that profession. There wasn't newer, like that. There was already issues with that, but it obviously gets multiplied with the pandemic, and they were rectifying it. But yeah, no, we're always going to be a near miss, and you then have an administration that is pulling back what has already been given to it. It just is a recipe for disaster. We see this across. It's literally a recipe for disaster. Like,
right, it was a disaster.
It's not hyperbole when I say that. And that's going to happen in other arenas, right? I just don't. That's other aspects of what the government touches.
Yeah, wait until there's another near miss on rail, or we had the bridge get whacked by the freighter in Baltimore. We had the rail cars explode in Ohio. It's like the pieces of the infrastructure that we need desperately to upgrade. I mean, even in this,
there's a law for that for some things.
There is a law for that, right? Unless he impounds all the money.
Right.
Even in the tower last night, the breakdown of who was there was a controller trainee and a supervisor trainee. So that tells you that they were already like the push to grow the numbers was happening in real time, and they were still understaffed, right? The trainees were there, right. But that tells you like that's how close to the margin we really are between the safest air system in the world, the safest transportation system in the world, air travel in the United States, and near chaos all the time is like, but for a few people. So attacking the federal workforce and attacking those folks in general, specifically, is a very, very, very bad idea right now in these fraud.
They'll be held to pay, but that's what I'm saying when we talked about last week. Like I don't think that hopefully we don't have to learn this way, but because I fly, you fly, like I think I trust the airplane and I trust in the fact that it goes up and it'll come back down. I think it's bonkers that we do that, but I push all that to the side and I go and travel on an airplane. But if, God forbid, more and more of these disasters happen, I'll guarantee you, like, a society isn't rocking with planes crashing. No. Train, like, it just doesn't. Those things will change. And again, there will be a subset of voters that will continue and supporters that will support him no matter what. But I do think things like this hit people. These things do wake people because they're like, nah, this isn't. And then to follow it up with, even though you know he's going to follow it up with blame, you know that. But to hear it, and from the excerpts I've heard of the press conference, I was just like, what do I need to give this more energy? Because this is an unserious individual. And so it's just sad all around. And it's like, it's children also are involved in this. Like, that piece always tugs at me, and I obviously tugs at people who are able to relate to that, obviously families. And it's very tragic that that happens in going into the evening. And but again, if we go about the way this administration is already kind of moving after 2 weeks, like, we are going to create issues like this, and they don't have to be this way. Does not have to be this way. It's a terrible fucking story.
So, all right, that was a new segment called Processing Our Grief, live on television or radio or whatever the hell this is. So, okay, now we do have a special edition of Chip Chat this week.
Yes, we do. Finally, this year we have a first special edition.
Special edition, yeah. We do have a guest, Mr. Perspective himself, longtime alum of this network in its various forms. Doug is going to be here with us. We're going to talk to him about his comedy and about what he's all doing these days. It's going to be cool, but also maybe
it'll finally be funny. It'll finally be funny.
Right. We get a real comedian on the show.
No, that's the shit we be doing.
All right. Also, Trump provides chaos, which we're going to attempt to turn into comedy. And Tez attempts to explain artificial intelligence to the barely intelligent. That's me. And then finally, several emails that really should have been meetings, which is the attack on the federal workforce via Elon's bad copy and paste email bullshit. So, yeah. Anyway, so you got a word?
Before I have a word, the ultimate vaccine timeline, a fact history of vaccines and their makers.
Oh my God! All right,
that's a forthcoming title. There was one about airplanes, but I left it alone.
Yeah, that's probably smart. That joke would have crashed anyway.
There you go. You couldn't know.
Yeah.
Do I have a word? God, there's so many words that could be used right now.
There's a lot of words.
Yeah, I gotta work.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I've got a word. We'll see if it. We'll
We'll
see
see
if it
what
works.
happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
All right. So we're gonna take our break. So sit back, grab some.
Microphones.
It's runway time. You're listening to the best show, the only show, Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
I'm just a pen. Yes, I'm only a pen. And I don't want Trump to use me again. He hasn't stopped since he got into the office last week. I'm tired and I think I'm running out of ink. Can somebody please tell him to stop and take a whole break? He has 4 years, I got a headache.
That's a fantastic break. All right, welcome back to Chip Chat
Okay,
here
there you
on
go.
Beltway Radio and beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's poppin', y'all?
All right. Now we've come to a part of the show. It's called a rundown. This is where I tell you about some stuff that's going on in the news. If we were professionals, it would sound a little something like this.
From Beltway Radio and beyond in Washington, D.C., I'm Emmy-nominated TV newsman and just bona fide sexual beast, J. Scott Smith. And this is the part of the show where I tell some stuff about well, maybe not me, but somebody else is going to tell some stuff about what's happening in the news. So what's going on in the news, fellas?
Thanks, Jay. All right. Yeah, so this is a special immigration rundown. So as you know, Trump has decided to attack immigrants, much like, I don't know, his marriages. So in this case, he's attacking brown immigrants, which he definitely would not characterize his marriages as. And one of them, okay, so he's been raiding all of these. He's been sending his ICE guys to go raid like schools and churches and hospitals and like disaster shelters and like places where people are, but they're probably not leaving. It's really dystopian.
Sometimes not the violent ones that he promised everyone most of
right.
the time.
He's deported several hundred people at a time. He's doing this in the most expensive way possible, sticking them on military jets that could hold
AC.
But they could hold several hundred people. He's flying like 80 at a time. Instead of the regularly already scheduled flights like the ones to Colombia, he was like, yeah, we're gonna put 80 guys on a C-17 and fly them all the way to Colombia. It's like, we had 2 flights scheduled this week and we're going to put 200 on each one of those. Can't we just put them on it? And he's like, no.
Show strength.
Yeah, we have to waste money on sticking them in the back of cargo planes somehow. So it's all just like stupid, right? And it's racist as all get out. There's no two ways about this. So and as we've discussed on the show, like I have this fantasy of like trying to provoke ICE to come after me by walking around being Australian and just like hoping that they come after me from my accent, but they're not going to come after me from my accent because, right, of course, even if I wasn't overstay, right, Australian, they're like,
they're not looking for you.
Right, they're not looking for me, right, because of what I look like. Right. Exactly. So, but who they are looking for apparently is Selena Gomez, who is a big Hollywood star and, singer, all kinds of things, right? Very popular. And she was like, hey, this stuff sucks, right? She was sad and she went on social media and she told everybody that she was, upset about this. Here's the quote. I just want to say that I'm sorry that all my people are getting attacked, the children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise. Right. And because she's her parents were born here. She was born here, but her grandparents came from Mexico. So this feels very real to her.
Very real, but also too, not like a crazy statement in the sense of like an attack towards the administration, or it was a heartfelt response, but it wasn't like, even if someone wanted to take it as like, it wasn't political. I will say that to sum it up, it wasn't a political response. It was an empathetic response that didn't seem
Yeah, it wasn't like she went out and said, "Oh, fuck Trump."
Exactly.
She was like, "This is sad, and I'm sad about it." Right? It's kind of neutral statement.
Very neutral statement. That's what struck me about this. But yes, I'm sorry. Continue.
Well, nothing's neutral in America, especially if you're a white person and there's a Mexican telling you how they have feelings.
My feelings are hurt because you told me about your feelings. Damn it.
Right? Yeah. So, senatorial candidate Sam Parker was like, "Yeah, we should throw her out of the country," and he said he wanted to deport her.
Look at these idiots. Hold on.
What is up with his haircut? Did he do it himself?
I mean, I'm looking at I guess I'm assuming this is the profile picture there.
Yeah, Selena Gomez picked illegals over Americans and blah, 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 blah. Because she's a third-generation descendant of Mexican illegals who received citizenship in the 87 amnesty, which was Reagan, of course. She has an entitlement attitude towards America like her illegal grandparents. Maybe Selena should be deported too. Said Sam Parker, notably not Apache or Iroquois or, yeah. She was like, "Yeah, thanks for the laugh and the threat there, Hoss."
I mean, obviously he's trying to, I guess, I don't know where he stands in his Senate campaign, but obviously it's clear what he's trying to do there. But again, just like eventually,
where is he running for Senate in?
That's the question. Yeah, that is
what state is he in? Because
Utah.
I hope
Utah.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, Utah, famous for all of the white people that are native to Utah. Like, what is this? What? First of all, why does he look like he had his hair cut by Stevie Wonder? I do want to know that. Like, that is not an acceptable way to go out in public. And then the other thing is that, like, if you're from Utah and you're not Native American and you're mad about people who are Mexican who have Native American like DNA, and you're like, "No, we should deport them." Yeah. I heard actually that in some of these ICE raids, they grabbed some people who are members of some of these First Nations that are here in the United States, and we're like, "We're going to deport you." And the guy's like, "To where? Arizona? I'm fucking Apache or whatever." And they were like, "Where's your passport?" And he's like,
"Oh God,
passport? You're on my reservation. Like, you're in my country. I'm going to deport you back to Connecticut or wherever white people come from."
There should be a fine or something that is levied upon. Like, it should, because that, especially
I think at some point you do see the Native American response to be something like, "Well, we'll open our borders to refugees and stuff and maybe house people or maybe provide sanctuary and more or less dare the federal authorities to come across the line and violate various treaties and stuff and then maybe shoot at them." I think that could happen. I mean, I distinctly remember George Custer trying to do an ICE raid at Little Bighorn, and that went really well.
Yeah.
He was like, "You guys are illegally occupying the land," and they're like, "Shut up." Pow. So, yeah, great job. Also, in immigration news, in yet again the dumbest possible way of doing anything, Guantanamo Bay is somehow
back in the
news, and not for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed this time. But now, if you're old enough and you lived through the late 1900s, you remember that there was this time when there was a bunch of people trying to come to this country from Haiti and Cuba in particular, and they were being intercepted on their way to Florida, right? Much like every time the Saints go, never mind. So Jameis Winston knows all about getting intercepted in Florida. So that's hilarious. So anyway, when the Coast Guard would interdict these people on their way there, they would pick them up and they would take them to Gitmo, where they had built this sort of short-term detention center where they would be booked and then deported. There are 2 airstrips on Guantanamo Bay in the naval base. If you go look at it on Google Maps, and you can see there, it still says the Gulf of Mexico, by the way, on Google. But anyway, if you look there, so they would like, they collect them all up. They'd put them there for, a couple of days, weeks, maybe, process them all, get their stuff, and then they put them on the planes and fly them back to Haiti or back to Cuba or wherever they were going. And so that facility still exists, but it's in shambles, right? It hasn't really been used as such in any real capacity for like a really long time. But along comes Secretary of Drunkenness Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, and they're like, hey, we should go back to using Gitmo. And so they had this like signing ceremony for the Laken Riley crime act or whatever that makes it illegal to be Venezuelan. And they were like, yeah, we're going to reopen up Gitmo, and we're going to start, he said they were going to quote 30,000 detain the worst criminal aliens threatening the American people. It's a tough place to get out of. If you're trying to deport them, don't you want it to be a place they can get out of? Not like trap them there for forever?
Depends what you're trying to do.
Some of them are so bad we don't even trust other countries to hold them.
See?
And we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo, Trump said. This will double our capacity immediately. Okay, several problems here. The facility can't actually hold 30,000 people. They would have to build a lot of barracks. They would need an appropriation from Congress. They're going to need a lot of money to do this kind of thing.
Yes, a lot of money.
They would need a lot of new authority granted to do a lot of this as well, because it doesn't exist as such. And, it just doesn't make any sense that you would round up people in the United States, fly them all the way to this place where it's incredibly expensive to keep people. And then
as you've seen what it was for however many folks that were even detained throughout the wars from Afghanistan.
It costs an incredible amount of money.
And there weren't 30,000 people there for that.
No, there was there were just a few.
Yeah.
They want to add beds. Pete Hegseth reminded everybody that there's a golf course there that they could build some stuff on. So sorry, Tez, your golf course.
Oh man, at least a beds. I see a My Pillow contract coming in.
Yeah, right. That's funny. You think they're gonna give them pillows?
I know.
Oh
no, a hard rock they'll sleep on.
Yes. You want to add in the fact that in addition to this, the whole bit where he said earlier in the week about wanting to send some of these, not just let's say send criminals to outside the U.S. and get a fee out of it.
Right. Yeah. Well, because he wants to charge.
Yeah.
And then they've also invested in all these private prisons and stuff, so they'll be able to build the detention camps with the private prisons, give them a government contract to house all the people, and then line their own pockets with it. Wow. Yeah. It's like a racist pyramid scheme. It's brilliant. I wish I'd have thought of that, right? It was
it's in Project 2025, folks.
Project 2595, because it's going to be like, that's the price per hour per prisoner. They're going to... What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Locking people up in camp. Isn't that that
it
seems
is
to be
that,
the plan.
is it not?
I don't know what I like. That seems to be the plan.
I think we've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Like we just hit the 80-year anniversary of the liberation of one of those camps, didn't we?
Yeah, we definitely did. I mean, we're othering a group of people. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've seen this play before. I used to know the play to stop it, I think. I remember what worked before. I don't know how that works now.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna have to send Brad Pitt and the Inglorious guys to go handle it. I mean, that's our only hope.
Yeah, but where they're gonna stay here then?
Well, we're gonna need them here.
Yeah,
they're building camps here too. So.
Yeah.
You thought we were going to hang out in the climate refugee camps.
We're eventually all going to get there.
Oh, okay.
That's the final boss.
See, I like your optimism that I'm going to live through this to get to
the final. The thing is, like we're going to get there and like we're like, oh, we made it on the other end of this and like multiracial democracy, and then wave. Maybe but at least we know we did it.
Yeah, right. For a brief moment before tidal wave came crashing down on us all.
Exactly.
The coast of North Dakota.
The coast of North Dakota. The Earth will win in the end.
It always has.
It always has. So,
if you go back and look at the late writings of the dinosaurs, they too were like very sure of themselves that, you know, we're going to go on into the future and colonize Mars. And then the asteroid is like, fuck you. Whack. All right. So yeah. What do you think we should rename the new detention camps in Guantanamo? Obviously, Guantanamo is too Spanish a name, and we can't have that. We have to give it a much more white-friendly name. They already call it Gitmo, right? Because that's easier for white people to say.
Gitmo.
Yeah. Right. Gitmo them and throw them in there.
What is a good name for? I don't know. That's a thing. I might have to ponder on that. Now you got me wondering what's a name that everybody can get.
I don't know, Camp something, but it's got, like Camp what?
I like it. What could be offensive? I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
because they gotta like.
Oh, I got it.
Okay.
Rename that Greenland, and then just tell Trump he got it. You'll be like, yeah, we got you a Greenland. We put it in Cuba. It's called Camp Greenland.
Greenland.
Yeah.
I mean, it's warmer.
I told you I was going to get Greenland. Yeah.
It's warm. So
he doesn't know the difference. He it's like it's on an island. You can tell him it used to be Denmark. He doesn't know what Denmark is. And then it'll be fine. You'll be like, yeah, we got you, Greenland. It's all fine. Pick something else. And then like every weird thing that he threatens to take, just like name another piece of Guantanamo Bay after that, and then just tell him that he got it, and then to keep him occupied for a little while. I don't know. We'll think it up. Maybe Doug's got an idea. Speaking of Doug,
there we go. Camp Sombrero.
No. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I'll keep working. I'll keep working on a few,
Camp Slowpoke Rodriguez.
Yeah. This is where you gotta we need listener interaction here at this point.
Well, if you want to
submit your best camp names.
Yeah, if you've got a good name for the new detention camps at Guantanamo Bay, send it to us. You can get us on the Twitter at ChipChat RR. Or
I can only imagine what great names will come from there.
Yeah, you can get it right. Many of which I will not even say. Or if you want to get me on Blue Sky at Chef Chip, or you can get the show on Instagram or something at Rip Chip Chat, or you can of course chime in if you're watching this, or you can put your comments in on YouTube. We'll go check those out. We'll have a winner next week, I guess. But in the meantime, we're going to ask somebody who actually is funny and maybe can come up with a good idea for this right after the break. So we're going to talk to Doug, Mr. Perspective himself, in just a few minutes. We're going to take a break. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweet.
When you get older, now that children have rights, because we didn't have rights. We didn't have rights growing up. Like, I remember one time, man, oh my God, man, this is the one time, and this is the reason why my mom forbade me to have white friends. Because when you got a white friend, they show you the way life is supposed to be. But when you go back to a black household, your mama show you how life is. Like, you know what I'm saying? My friend, his name was Timmy. Oh my God, man, Timmy had such faith in himself. We were playing Nintendo, all right? And we were playing and we were side by side. Now, for the kids who were born in the last 5 years, we played video games with someone you could actually see, okay? So we're playing video games. His mom knocked on the door in his room. Freaking knocked. My mom came in like SWAT. You understand? Knocked on the door. She's like, hey, Timmy, the game is too loud. You need to turn it down. He said, you know what? Screw you, Mom. Yeah. This is my private space. And you can leave. She left. He went to unpause the game. I said, hold, pause. Wait. Hey. You gotta tell me how you did that. was like, just tell your mom that you'll call the cops on her. So now that I'm armed with this knowledge, I'm gonna take it back to my people. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. That's what we do. I went home, my mama looked at me and she said, hey, you need to turn that down. I said, no, I don't. She was like, excuse me? She's like, don't make me come over there. I said, I'll call the cops. This is how I knew my mother was a certified murderer. My mother looked at me with a straight face. I said, I'll call the cops. Dial 911, easiest number in the world to remember. I said, 911. She said, you can call them, but it's gonna take them 15 minutes to get here. And when I make bail, you better not be here when I get back. 911, what's your emergency? Sorry, wrong number. Go ahead and get this butt moving over with.
All right, welcome back to Chip Chat here on Beltway Radio and Beyond. I'm your host, Chip. With me is Tez.
What's popping up?
And that was a clip of our guest, Doug, Mr. Perspective, doing his comedy stuff there. Doug Bennett is a comedian, radio host, and all-around good guy who just might be making a comeback to our airwaves at some point. We never know. He is known as Mr. Perspective. So what better person to invite to bring us a better way of looking at things? Doug, welcome to Chip Chat. Oh, we broke it. Brian broke the internet. Brian, click the button.
This is exactly
live
how
radio.
This is how our show
From Beltway Radio and Beyond.
Exactly. It's okay.
Oh,
all right.
okay.
No, all right.
Well,
again, we'll filibuster
while our white producer figures out
yes.
how to get the technology to work again.
Yeah. But no, I just that clip is very.
Does that resonate with you, Tez? Did you?
It resonate. I never was bold enough to try it because I think I already specifically the police thing. I think I was bold enough on trying that my own without being prompted, and then was promptly told you something similar like call the police, but make sure you leave with them, because if you don't, there'll be a bigger problem with you staying here. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. Oh, they're not afraid of the police. Okay, then that's fine. All right. Obviously, there's something I'm missing here, and I need to rethink my life decisions at an early age. But as a person who went to school with a bunch and had a bunch of white friends, there was definitely a difference in the household of what you could get away with.
Yeah,
you get away with in my household.
What do you think is the sort of underlying? I have a theory about this, but what do you think is the underlying dynamic that lets white kids talk back to their parents in ways that black kids certainly can't?
I wonder if it's prepping them just to get them ready for control of the outside world.
Okay. Well, that's as good a reason as anything. Okay, let's see if we got him back. Doug, are you with us?
Yeah, man. What's happening, y'all?
Hey, there he is. Sorry. We had a little technical difficulties there.
No, it's all good. I came in a part about the white friends.
Yeah, we watched your clip telling that joke. So it was.
Yeah. Everybody need a white friend, boy. I tell you that much right now. I got a white friend, and my credit score went up about 5 points.
Only 5. That's how we know.
Well, technically he wasn't white. I think he was Asian. But you get him where you can get him, boy. His name was Tom. What was it? Tom Chang. So I was like, yeah.
That's halfway there.
Halfway.
Yeah.
He was fully white. It'd have been 10 points.
So listen, in an effort to get you more white friends, we're gonna ask you some questions about your stand-up comedy routine, which I'm told white people are big fans of.
Yes. I accept Venmo. If it was if this was a black show, it'd have been Cash App.
Cash App, naturally, yes. Naturally. Okay. So one of the things that we get asked a lot in doing this is, does the chaos of the Trump world make it easier to write comedy? And do you like having all this material available, or would you rather have to like actually write stuff rather than just point at the news and laugh?
Bruh. First of all, what you talking about? That's like asking a McDonald's worker, if all you sold were nuggets, would you ask for more days off? It's like, hell nah. If all these motherfuckers want is chicken nuggets and I ain't got to thaw no meat patties out, just take these damn chicken nuggets. Man, I don't give a damn. Trump makes this joint so easy. I think this is the real question that people need to ask themselves. How bad did the Democrats fuck up that they gave the devil a second chance?
We ask that every week on this
Every
show.
week
So
is
yeah, we haven't figured it out yet.
evergreen question here.
Like, for real, man. That's crazy to me. How bad did the Democrats fuck up that that's like how bad is church for somebody to pick drug dealing over Jesus?
This is a good point there.
Like, what sermons are you preaching, Creflo, that I would rather be a stripper than be on the praise and worship team?
Yeah. Well,
it's an opportunity, miss opportunity.
For me, people ask us this a lot, right? And I honestly, I would rather have to work at writing the jokes than have the potentially
said by somebody who was never a slave. Listen, we don't want to work hard any fucking more, okay, at all. And we don't want to work hard anymore, okay? It's serious.
To be clear,
hey, Ted, said by somebody who was part of the establishment.
This, I think that the
you might remember those pyramids. I do believe we had a hand in constructing those, and it wasn't exactly our own.
Oh Lord, not a Jewish person. Oh my God, let me stop. Let me stop before my lights in my house go off and my car don't start tomorrow. Let me stop that right now.
We don't have those powers, just the weather. So,
but to the point, no, I always say, when they try to run this, and specifically for my immigrant brothers and sisters who are the same color as us, where they be like, "Oh, black people is lazy." I was like, "Well, number one, that's false, and number two, if anybody had the right to be, it would be."
First of all, most black people can't be lazy. You know how hard we work at our white people voice when we go into a job interview. You know how hard we work at that shit. Do you know how hard it is to say hi?
Hold on, can I hit? Hold on, we'll do this as a vulnerability right here. We'll go white person voice for white person voice real quick.
All right, let's go.
All right, who was? All right, I'll give one of picking up the phone in an establishment.
Yeah.
I get, and I'll even give my full government on this real quick. Oh no, I'm gonna make up a name.
Yeah.
Because let's keep the mystery with the word Ted.
Keep the mystery, right? To keep the mystery with just with the Tez there. Good afternoon. This is William. How may I help you?
Nigga, that ain't white.
Okay, go ahead. Let's go.
Unbelievable.
That's a Spanish dude who talked Duolingo.
All right, go ahead.
You ready?
Yep.
First and foremost, my name is Douglas. That's already white. You know how many job interviews I got and how many jobs I lost once I got to the interview?
Mine's Nicholas, so I got you. I'm right.
Yeah, okay.
I'm right there with you.
Yes, thank you for calling. This is Sears. How may I help you? Oh, really? Well, do tell. Oh, seriously? Well, hey, shut my mouth wide open. By Zeus's beard. Really? Really? Well, as the sun sets in the east and rises in the west. Oh, reverse that. Man, I have. Listen, come on now. My name is Douglas, not Derek, not Deron, Douglas. Okay? Trust me, the only thing I am missing is 5 extra credit points on my credit report.
I don't know if I have a white voice. Is that a thing I can do?
You're Jewish.
Yeah.
You don't need a white voice.
I didn't think so.
You've got Jesus. You can't get whiter than that.
He had Jesus. He left.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
All right. They say he's on his way back. Some
I heard.
Yeah, he must be with who's in office now. Nah, because he would have already came back 8 years ago. So yeah.
So some people think that these kind of like constant tragedies, that we're experiencing right now are.
I had to ask this motherfucking question.
Well, that they're not really like inbounds for comedy, and there's this famous quote Gilbert Gottfried said, if tragedy plus time equals comedy. Why wait? You know, and
Yeah, quote somebody who's dead, who don't have to deal with the ridicule, but ask me the question while I'm alive.
well, what I'm asking is, do you think that comedy can help us cope with these kinds of things? You know, in these times when it's tough, does comedy give us an outlet or a way to deal with it?
I'll tell you this much, man. Comedy gives you as much an outlet as crack. The truth of the matter is, you just got to be able to understand how much crack you can take.
Okay.
Okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think everybody should just smoke crack once, you know? No, I do. I think everybody should smoke crack. You should smoke crack once or at least get secondhand crack. Like, you know, be around a family member that smoke crack and just let them blow it in your vicinity, just so you understand what it's like not to give a fuck about anything. But then once the joke subsides and you come crashing back to earth, once the crack is over with, then you have plenty of time to reflect. But the only way you do that is you got to smoke more crack. So that's what I say about comedy. Before you come down, just continue to get another joke and continue to get another joke and continue to get another joke. Because at the end of the day, once you're high enough, there's no coming down.
Do you think that, because I definitely have been in that category where it's like I'm just making
What,
jokes,
smoking crack?
Yeah, definitely that.
Alley-oop. I was just
But
Yeah, I'm about to say, I know Jewish people did drugs.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know they did drugs.
Yeah, well, I
I
think
know
we
y'all took
invented
sacrament, but I didn't know you did drugs.
Yeah, we like the drugs. I think. I don't know.
You can tell right there, he ain't never had we like the drugs. As if there's the drugs.
We do like the drugs. Yeah, I learned about it on the Twitter. So, but in any case, you know, like the laugh to keep from crying kind of thing, where it's like you just kind of like keep making jokes about stuff so that you don't have to really confront it. I definitely do that. That's a defense mechanism that I use, and I know that I do bury myself in stand up as a way to like process things. Like I don't. There's things that I don't want to really read about in the newspaper or watch on the news, but I do want to hear Jon Stewart or anybody else, Roy Wood, somebody tell me that story in a different way, because I'll absorb it a little better. When John Oliver tells me about the miserable conditions in prison, I absorb the information without feeling like I want to die. Whereas if I watched a Frontline documentary about it, I'm just like miserably sad. So
this is the thing about comedy, man. Comedy is very subjective. And we live in a world right now where everybody is really tight about any and everything. Mm-hmm. I tell people this all the time. I said, being sensitive and going to a comedy show to get offended is like being a germaphobe and going to a goddamn strip club. You know what I'm saying? It's like the bitch comes up to you and is like, hey, would you like a dance? Yeah. Do you got any hand sanitizer? It's like, nah, what? Nigga, get them sprinkles, get that brute, that high karate that she got on, and just go back there and get her ass rubbed on you. My thing with comedy is this. It's subjective. If you don't like a particular brand of comedy, because the funny thing about it is you can find humor in anything. You really, really can. The problem is, how far are you willing to dig, and are you willing to risk? Because this is what people need to understand. The further you dig, there's always a chance that you're gonna find yourself being buried. Like the further you dig, you can find there's a chance you'll find yourself getting buried in the very hole that you dug. So if you're willing to risk that, go for it. I mean, I don't think anything is out of bounds, because to sit up here and act like, okay, comedy is life. Life is comedy.
Yes.
Name one thing that you're not privy or subjected to in life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it isn't like, let's be for real. Just because you don't get cancer don't mean you can't have it.
Right.
Just because you don't happen to be a part of a said tragedy doesn't mean you're not going to be. So nothing in life is out of bounds or off limits. So why should comedy?
I could not agree more.
Yeah. Now here's the kicker. You better have skills.
Yeah, right.
Because the job is to be funny, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. The job is to be funny. Okay,
Right.
that's the one thing that people don't understand about comedy. Like, people think you can just go out there and be like, knock knock, who is it? I'm here to deliver a plane crash. Ha ha ha. It's like, nah, that's not how this shit works.
Right.
You got to be able to put that shit in such a tightly knit box that even the most offended person, when they get in their crib and say the joke again, can be like, like, that's comedy. Comedy is one of those things where you can reach inside of yourself and be able to touch the deepest part of somebody else. Even if they don't want to laugh in front of you, they can go to their crib and laugh about it.
Yeah, I very much agree that there shouldn't be boundaries. You know, it's up to the audience, really.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like what you're hearing, change the channel or whatever. But
Yeah, now I wouldn't suggest taking a gig at an LGBTQIA ball and be talking about, so y'all can take dick but can't take a joke. Like, nah,
Yeah,
nah.
probably not going to go over very
Yeah,
well.
probably not going to go very well. But you know, if you can find a way, you have to. That your job is to be funny. It is not. You know what I'm saying? And if it happens to offend, it whatever. But your primary goal as a comedian is to be funny.
Sometimes I've even heard jokes that, you know, the kernel of them, the underlying premise of them, I know is offensive, but I'm there to be laughing. I'm there
Right.
to,
Why did I
to
come here?
enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah,
I'm
like I
gonna
said,
suspend this for a
it's
little
like
while.
it really and truly is. It's like going to a strip club and getting mad at them for asking for money. Like, bitch, why are you always asking for money? I'm sorry, did the pasties not give it away?
Right. Yeah. It's, you know what you're there for.
Yeah, you know what you're here for. So it's almost like when I'm serious. I use strip club a lot, but it's like going to a strip club and this bitch coming up acting like, "How's your day?" Like, don't ask me that shit.
Do you think it would be cool to have a stripper comedy show where the strippers told jokes?
No,
Because
No.
they're not there to be
They're
funny.
not there
I'm
for
not
that.
there. I'm not. Listen,
They're not there to be funny. And no one's
listen.
there to hear them.
I'm not here. I'm not here to laugh. I'm here to give you a hard time.
Ah,
There it is.
Alright? I'm not here to laugh. I'm here to give you a hard time.
that's yeah, real boner of a joke. All right, so
Did our Korean brothers and sisters, they don't know what they flag means. I saw in watching through some of it.
Oh my God, bro.
That was and sorry, I don't. And for the listeners who haven't seen this, please
All
go.
right. Listen,
Go.
let's just go ahead and break it down. Hey, I just got back from doing some shows in Hawaii, Guam, and Korea. And I went out there to Korea and I took a tour, aka I got lost. And I was in the car with this dude named Kong. All right. And Kong was so eloquent, like his accent was authentic, like he really was, man. And he was telling me about the history of the land, the agriculture, and this used to be a rice paddy until the white man came in and blew it up. And over here is where we worship the god Dagon and everything that goes along with him. And over here is where we circumcise the children and take the foreskins and make little hats out of them and walk around in a circle to bring rain. So I was like, okay, cool. I said, hey, man, just asking. You know how in America, our flag, we got 50 stars for the 50 stars for the states and 13 bars for the colonies. What does your flag mean? All of a sudden, Kong wasn't Kong no more. Kong was fucking Carl. And all of a sudden, his accent went away. And that motherfucker looked at me and said, I don't know. Let me Google that. I said, say what? He was like, well, I don't know. I said, bro, you're born and bred in Korea. You just told me about rice paddies and shit like that. Do you know how bad you got to be about rice? Black people know about rice. We got a dude on the picture called Uncle Ben. We know about rice, and you just told me about rice. How do you know everything about your country except the flag? He looked at me and said, well, do you know everything about America? I said, touche. Keep going.
I implore everybody to go watch that.
it's an incredible
He
bit.
tried to hide his face too. After
He tried to hide his face. He did.
He was happy.
Tried to hide his face and throw up some random gang sign like. It was at that moment I said, motherfucker, you are not from Seoul. Your ass is from Michigan. You ain't from Seoul, bitch. Like, you ain't from Seoul. You a Soul brother. Watch out now, the funk Soul brother. Like, you ain't from Seoul, bitch.
I don't know if you remember back at the old studio back in Laurel. around the corner from there was a liquor store that I used to stop in before we would go to do the show. This is way
A
back.
liquor store in Maryland? Who would have ever thought?
Who would have thought, right? And the guy who ran it was this Korean dude who appeared to have learned to speak English only from his black customers. So he really didn't, it didn't quite work. So like everything he said went kind of like this. He'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And shit. And then you'd be like, "I'm good, man. Where's the whiskey?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's right over there." And shit. And then I was like, "It's over there. Where?" And he's like, "Yeah, right over there." And shit. And I'm like, "But he's good." It took me like a good 2 or 3 visits before I figured out what was going on. I was like, "Oh, I get it now. This guy learned English from this. This was where he learned it at work." It was a wild experience.
To append that is hilarious.
Holy shit. Holy
and shit.
So that motherfucker pretty much watched BET reruns and thought that he had the black culture packed down. All I got to do is say and shit, talk about reparations, and spit out sunflower seeds, and I pretty much fit right here in PG County. No,
I'm not
motherfucker.
sure that he knew that there was other kinds of English. Like I think he only experienced like northern Prince George's County English, and so and so he only spoke like that. I don't know that he knew that there were people in other places that didn't talk like that.
Isn't that like with the NBA players, like the Kristaps Porzingis, they say learned a lot of from just listening to and being influenced by hip hop culture.
I hate the fact of the matter that they think they can get a Tupac album and they figured out everything about blackness. So should I be pictured rolling? No, bitch. No, that's a song. That's a song. No, you should not be pictured rolling.
No.
Speaking of blackness, I do want to ask you a question about that. Is what do you think about all these black Trump supporters? Good answer. All right, moving on.
Nah, man, I'm gonna answer that shit, bro.
And shit.
Listen, if you keep getting fucked over by the prettiest girl at the ball, eventually you're gonna go for the ugly one. Because at the end of the day, both pussies are only 4 inches deep. And my thing is, we done tried our hand with Democrats. Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Why not give our support to a Republican? Oh, we did that post-Civil War, and the shit still didn't work. So I don't know why black people are voting anymore anyway. I'm serious. I don't get it. It's literally like being lied to and expecting, you know what? They're going to tell the truth this time. If they haven't told the truth yet and you keep taking them back, what's the incentive of them being honest now?
Yeah, it does look a little like an abusive relationship, right? It's like, no, this time I mean it. Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't look.
So me personally,
it is an abusive relationship.
Me personally, I don't know about anybody else. I just say me. If you're a black person and you still voting, something wrong with you. Like something is really wrong with you.
Don't tell Tez loves voting.
If you are black, Tez ain't black. He said my Korean brothers and sisters, so he ain't black. Look, it's because the one thing black people do know about is their country. We ain't had no choice but to learn about this bitch. I'm telling you right now, if you are black and you still voting, boy, please tell me what the tooth fairy looks like. Please wake up in the middle of the night when she takes that tooth and how much money she gets. Because I'm serious. I don't understand why. I'm just speaking for us. I don't understand why we still vote when no president, and I mean no president, has ever done anything for us at all.
So don't vote general election for the president. The specific thing you're saying, or just in general, we just not local town, whatever, sheriff, whoever.
Okay, and this is not even trying to be funny. All right, us voting is like being with a woman who doesn't cook, doesn't clean, and doesn't fuck us, but we hope that she'll do at least one of the 3 over the next 4 years.
I mean, I can see how you get
Yeah,
to that.
oh,
By no means would I say that that's not a valid position to
the
have.
the beauty of it is you allowed to do that.
Yeah,
That's the
if
beauty
you
of
want
it.
to,
Yeah.
that is a valid.
Understood.
Yeah.
But do not bitch about what pussy you're not getting, how hungry your ass is, and how dirty your house is. If you continue to sit back with your fingers crossed and your eyes closed, praying that she'll microwave something, pick up a broom, and suck your dick.
Right. It's one or the other. All right. So speaking of things that you do have a bit of experience on, how do you feel about our new Secretary of Drunkenness, Pete Hegseth?
Man, fuck all them.
A good answer. Okay. Now we know it's a school night, so we don't want to hold you too long, but I want to make sure that people know where they can follow you, where they can get information on your next upcoming shows and all that stuff. Because we can watch clips of you all day long, but it's way better to see you in person. So how can everybody get up on that?
All right. Well, I got a show coming up in Lynchburg on the 28th of February through Dry Bar Comedy. But you can check it out. I'm gonna get the information. It'll be on my Instagram page at the Doug Bennett _01.
There you go.
All right,
we'll post links to all that. So
come hang out in
Lynchburg. Yeah, we'll go down. Well, I don't know if I'm going all the way to Lynchburg, but
yo, if two black people can go to Lynchburg, a white dude sure as hell can.
Yeah.
Right.
For those guys.
What the fuck is wrong with this dude, Tez? What's wrong with him?
He means well.
Oh, man. So did Trump with his press conference today.
No, I don't think he did. I don't think he meant well at all. He meant harm and destruction. But all right.
I'm thinking about the damn press conference now. I should have laughed.
Yeah, don't do that.
I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. The people who put a mic in front of him do it on purpose, bro.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you right now. Yeah. I'm gonna tell you right now. The dude, they got speech writers, right? His speechwriter is the only person that'd be like, why bother?
Yeah, he doesn't read it anyway.
He don't read the shit anyway.
Well, and it's difficult to write a whole speech with only single syllable words. You get really kind of like.
You got the game twisted, bro. If I was his speechwriter, I would do everything in my power to out offend him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I would.
I'm serious. I would literally go through his past speeches and construct every future speech based off that shit. It would be like a colloquialism of bullshit. I swear to God, it would be a quilt of offense. It really and truly would. It'd be a quilt of offense. Just an Afghan.
Write me a Trump speech made of previous Trump speech.
Yes, it would be. That's exactly what it would be. It would be an Afghan of assholeness.
Okay, that's a great way to go out. Thanks, Doug.
Once
again, where can everybody get you on the Instagram? Follow you.
You can check me out, the Doug Bennett _01.
All right, fantastic. All right, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be back with the third half of the show. You're listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and beyond.
Sweeps.
I'm so glad I'm in a relationship now, and I never thought I'd say that. Is that your woman, sir? You, sir. Yeah. That's your woman? Kind of nervous, like this. Blink twice if you're here against your will. He blinked 3 times, like No, man, because it's safer being in a relationship than it is, and not. Because it's difficult to get into a relationship. Remember back in the day, that's your woman right there? Beautiful young lady. You met her, you just walked up to her, talked to her. You know what I'm saying? You didn't? I'm just like, you didn't at all? She talked to you? She did. Player! No wonder you sitting there, boy. He got an ace bandage on from patting himself on the back, so. But it's different now, man. They have things called dating apps. Have you ever heard of the dating apps? Oh my God, they got this one dating app called Plenty of Fish. Have you ever heard of it? Plenty of Fish. Man, that joint need to be called Cut, Bait, and Throwback. It's terrible. Like, have you heard of the term catfish? Yeah. Man, I ain't get catfished. I got Moby Dick. Rainbow trouted, loudmouth bass. Listen, and I'm speaking straight to the fellas in here, because ladies, y'all need to stop it. Y'all are some physicists out of this world. They know how to manipulate the camera in such ways that make you think they ain't got no waist whatsoever, bro. Especially if they do this little Avengers pose. Like, I don't like it. Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now, there are two things you learn from a dating website. Fellas, you know what I'm saying? I want you to hear me out. Number one, don't trust not nan woman that take what I like to call an SVS. That's called a satellite view selfie. Well, all the pictures is like this. And all you see is her eyes, nose, and mouth like she misses potato head. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that. The reason why I don't like that, man, is because, ladies, y'all need to stop it. Y'all too concerned with how y'all look physically. Man, look at me. I love a woman with something to grab onto. I really and truly do. I'm 180 pounds. I'm gonna do with a woman as skinny as me. Start a fire? No! Serious, man. I love a woman. I'm serious. I'm being real with you. I love a woman with dimples and stretch marks. It's like a GPS to the promised land. Oh! I'm just saying, man, I'm a real dude. Second thing is, I don't like a woman who wears a scarf around her neck all year long. I don't. Because she's hiding one of two things. Either A, you hiding some extra chins, which means you still got food in there from your last first day. Or you hiding an Adam's apple, which means that if we get into a fight, it is not domestic violence with two people with a disagreement. You understand me? Thank you so much. I'm Doug. Thank you.
Okay, it's true. I stayed up late last night, so I had half a Turbo Force this morning. The vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. The vitamins, the minerals, the the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids. The vitamins, the minerals. That's Turbo Force. 5 different types of caffeine. Doesn't have the crash. 5 different types of caffeine. That's Turbo Force. 5 different types of caffeine. Doesn't have the crash. 5 different types of caffeine. That's Turbo Force. Plant derived. 500 milligrams. Slow burn. The very best. I want a long burn. Plant derived. 500 milligrams. Slow burn. The very best. That's Turbo Force. I tell you what, I'm feeling a lot of energy. My brain's sure working good right now. Good right now. Good right now. Pre-workout, next level, Turbo Force. Turbo Force. Pre-workout, next level, Turbo. It's Turbo Force. And get the fish oil.
Did it chase him away? I just love that Alex Jones cut him off mid-sentence. But yeah, you are tuned into Chip Chat. We don't know where Chip has went. I assume that he's went to grab some Turbo Force, or he's fully on disappeared into the Alex Jones ether that we provide for you every week.
Exactly.
So it's kind of always interesting when the host of the show just disappears. But
like
there he is.
There he is.
He's back.
Back with the Turbo Force.
Yeah, did you get some Turbo Force?
Turbo Force.
Okay, you're back. We expected. We thought you were engulfed by the presence of Alex Jones, because the last time everybody saw you, you were about to say welcome back, and then you were just snatched away by the Turbo Force.
I needed to go get some Turbo Force.
There it is.
Turbo Force. Our unsuccessful bid to buy the Turbo Force.
And the fish oil.
And the fish oil. Right, get the fish oil. All right, so that was Doug and then Alex Jones. Yes. Go check out his stuff. He's very funny guy.
Super funny. Yeah, I mean, just pure comic.
Just because he said don't vote, don't be too upset.
Similar to him, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Like, what the hell am I supposed to say to that? And it's a
valid position.
So I've never argued that to feel that way. I completely understand that. The question always is like, how far does that go? And then I don't know if I'm playing a game. If there's this game that's out there, no matter what, I'm still gonna go into the game and play it somehow. So
Right. You
but
can't win if you don't play.
But just the act of voting, there are other things you can do that you can become more involved a variety of different ways, even outside of like the franchise. But it is there, so you know.
Speaking of voting, did the council vote to pitch Trayon? I didn't see.
Did the vote come out today or was it next Tuesday?
I don't know. I don't remember. I know they
I want to say I feel like it might be next Tuesday. I thought I had read that. That's the
Well, this next segment is called Federal Chaos. Now, us being here in DC, of course, the federal chaos does affect us in a very profound way. And here is one of the ways that it did. And I just want everybody to like kind of be ready for the ricochet whipsaw aspect of the Trump administration. And we kind of forgot maybe over the last 4 years what it's like to have one thing happen and be all ready to go after that, and then it zigs when you should have zagged or whatever. It's okay. So here's what happened. Earlier this week, Trump issued a memo saying that they were going to pause all grants and loans and disbursements from all the federal agencies across the board. And everybody was like, what? And then they were like, well, this won't target individual assistance programs like SNAP or Social Security or Medicare or something. But that's not the way that it was actually written. And the actual directive that came from the White House was very, very broad. It came from the Office of Budget and Management and Budget, OMB. There's going to be we're going to get back to like having to know a million acronyms because there's like obscure agencies that hadn't been doing anything or had just been doing their job that now Trump's trying to hijack to do other things. So OMB is one of them. OMB's job is essentially to do what it says. It's the Office of Management and Budget. And they issued this memo saying, we're not going to do any of the things that Congress has passed. So if your kids go to Head Start, a school that's paid for with Head Start, well, if there's federal grant money that pays for that, that's going to stop. If you happen to like to fish in a particular lake that's get some funding through Fish and Wildlife for conservation, that's going to stop immediately. You're going to dump stuff in the lake or whatever. If you're a veteran who gets benefits through the VA and maybe you need like transportation to your doctor's appointment, that would stop immediately. So it's like this whole thing. And it was so broadly written that all of the federal agencies, regardless of what they were able to parse out legally, were just like, we're going to stop. Everybody's going to just stop, like threw up their hands, stop. And overseas, there's a lot of things that get money from us, like health programs, things that sort of keep like the lights on, security facilities. You know, there's a lot of like nuclear proliferation stuff that the U.S. pays for to keep nukes from becoming loose nukes. All of that, they were like, what are we going to do? We have to like stop operating. We can't pay our workers. We can't keep the lights on. We can't do anything. So like everything stopped. And all of the states and all of the groups that need this funding, some of them tried to like draw down, you know, what they needed for that day or for that week, and they couldn't. So then that set off alarm bells. Everybody's like, well, what's going on here? So like a day later, they said, okay, well, you know, there isn't really a confusion here. Everybody's just overreacting. This is kind of dumb. You know, we can do this if we want to. And then a lot of states, I think it was 22
states,
filed a lawsuit. They're like, you can't do that. Why can't they do that, Tez?
Because this money has already been appropriated from Congress, and Congress controls, right? It's been told that they can spend this money, and then, and I don't know in this story, maybe it's the next story on there, but the payouts that there's a lot of talks about this buyout program, right? Where does that money come from? It has not been appropriated. And like, this goes back to like the mechanisms of government and how they work. And maybe they feel like they can just like, maybe it's just, again, flood the zone and this stuff goes up to the court. But then I don't know, do we look at the court saying that you've then drastically changing the three, I mean, they have drastically changed the three branches of government. But at that point, like, what are we looking at?
So the states challenge this based on the fact that the Congress has the power of the purse. If they write a law and pass the law and the president signs the law that says this money has to be spent for this thing, it has to be spent for the thing. The president can't turn around and just refuse to do that. In the same way, he can't like refuse to enforce any other law. Right?
He's supposed to execute that.
He has to execute that. Faithfully execute the laws. You know, you can't just all of a sudden decide to, I don't know, redraw the border of Mexico with a Sharpie, you fucking dope. So after the states all went to court for this, immediately afterwards, by Wednesday, the administration reversed course and they issued another memo rescinding the other order, saying, never mind, we're not doing that. We're not freezing anything. We're just going to go case by case. So like the whipsaw of that caused massive chaos, right? Because again, all of these programs that people depend on, the Farm Bureau needs to be able to write new insurance policies for farmers for their crop insurance for this year. Imagine if they didn't get that. They wouldn't be like financially viable to go plant all of the wheat that we need to make bread or anything like critical like that. We're in the middle of a avian flu epidemic that has devastated the egg production flocks, right? And they're down to like 50% of it.
No one seems to figure out how that factors into egg prices.
It's the Gulf of America, of course. So those farmers, they need crop insurance, not crop insurance, but they need some of the federal grants and federal help through USDA to help reestablish those flocks and get that production back up and running. All of these things are funded through government programs. And, this uncertainty aspect of it, when you ask the business community, what is it that they want here? They're like, we don't care what the rules are, just as long as they don't keep changing. Just give us something consistent and we'll play within those rules and try to, make as much money as possible, but at least we know what the rules of the game are. But when the rules keep changing back and forth, it makes it nearly impossible. You saw this reflected in the way that the markets reacted. You saw a lot of stuff kind of bouncing around. It's just not sustainable. So this is just week 2. There's going to be more of this kind of like back and forth. The other thing to pay attention to, like you mentioned, is the flood the zone thing, right? So they just do everything all at once.
Right.
And wait and see what gets beat in court or what people lose interest in and then try to pursue it in other ways. In this case, I think it's very clear that what they're going to do is they're going to do this same thing where they're going to refuse to execute on the laws that have been passed but they're going to do it at a granular level, agency by agency. And they're all going to end up in court. And
or does a court that has Republican justices, not only some appointed, right, obviously by the president, but also justices that come out of like that Reagan era expansion of the executive, right? What is it? The unilateral executive or unitary executive? And it's like, does it get to the Supreme Court and they change what I thought was already kind of settled and give the executive? I mean, we're already moving toward the executive kind of being this like king almost. I mean, seems to be like.
Well, with the immunity stuff,
that feels like a divine right type thing. The divine right being that you were the executive.
Yeah,
it's what does that mean? Like you would just, because you are the executive, you are now above the law. I do wonder when some of these cases do make it to the Supreme Court, like, do they interpret written law or the Constitution differently?
I don't know. I mean, it's all going to come down to this idea of impoundment. There was a law passed in 1974 that in the post-Nixon era where it specifically forbids the president from impounding money. Basically, if Congress passes a law saying that you're going to do this, right, you wouldn't think you would need to clarify this in the statute because it is in the Constitution, but they did clarify in a statute that says that the president can't impound the money. He can't refuse to spend money or refuse to run a program that Congress has duly appropriated the money for or duly passed as a creating or execution of a program. And the Trump people basically have this theory, this legal theory, which has never actually worked out for anybody who has tried it, that the president has some sort of extra authority to not execute if he thinks that it's not the laws that Congress passed or the appropriations that Congress appropriated are not within his policy goals. And
I don't know where that. I don't even know where that's written in, or how
it's
you
not in the
interpret it.
Constitution,
It's not in the Constitution.
it would be a stretch of the constitutional. Article 2 says that the president, it's Article 2, first of all, that the Congress is Article 1, but it's Article 2, and it says that the president's job is to faithfully execute the laws as written by Congress. And what I'm really confused about is maybe it wasn't last term, it was the term before that, we had the overturning of Chevron deference.
Yeah.
And in that decision, the courts basically came down to say that the executive branch or the administrative agencies can't make up rules that Congress hasn't specifically granted them the authority to do or specifically spelled out in the legislation. And so they said, okay, so that's the case, is that the decision making or the rule making aspect of the agencies no longer exists. That either has to be spelled out directly by Congress in the statute or interpreted by the courts.
Sure, yeah. The judges also are able to make that decision.
Yeah, but these same people then say that maybe these same agencies can just decide not to execute on what Congress specifically writes in their statutes that get passed.
You're talking to both sides of your neck.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? So I'm not really sure how, if these same justices, if they, now, I don't believe that Republicans mean what they say ever, but if Birkan Brett and Neil Gorsuch and these guys do mean what they say in the Chevron deference decision, or the overturning of Chevron deference, I should say, if they do mean that, it would be hard for them to find that this other thing also applies, because it can go the other way, right? I heard, I think it was Patty Murray or one of the senators today said, like, hey, the shoe could be on the other foot, right? This could happen where you have a Democratic president and Congress pass laws and they've got Republican priorities, certain agencies that they want to see happen, and the Democrat just decides, nope, not going to do that, not going to execute these laws. Or like, they want the border closed, and the Democrat could just say, nope, we're just going to open the border and you can't stop me. You can't go to court and prove that I can't do it, whatever. So like, careful what you wish for, I guess. I don't.
Which, I mean, because then if we get to that point, then it's almost that you need, and not to bring it back to voting, but I think there's even two pieces of this. If you get to that point, then, right, you only can navigate or pass laws with supermajorities, right? You need to have both houses of Congress, and you need to have the presidency, right? If you get to that point, right? And then maybe the courts, obviously, maybe the people challenge the courts, but then if you do have the Congress could write a law, right? And then you can enforce the law. But now I do wonder that if you have the actions that are happening kind of right now around like the freezing of money and all, like, and it goes back to being like Congress, right? Like almost there's a razor thin margins, right? There is a need for there to be like a Democratic Congress to really put some of this stuff, hopefully put some of this stuff in check. But yeah, I just don't understand, like, if money has already been appropriated, then it needs to be spent. And there's the executive branch, as I understand it, doesn't have any jurisdiction over like putting a halt on that through executive order or any other means. Like, no, again, to me, it's the whole opposite. You need to execute that, because
that is what executive means.
Yeah, I just don't, I'm confused.
Well, so now to add yet another wrinkle to this, as I've been sort of building up this layer cake of bullshit, is the immunity aspect. So let's say that the courts rule that no, you can't impound this money. You do have to spend it because it has been appropriated by Congress. And Trump just says, I'm not going to do it. And I have presidential immunity to not do this thing. I can't be breaking the law if I'm doing something in my official capacity as president. There's this immunity that exists now out of thin air, John Roberts. And then they could say, like, then are we back to litigating that?
Yeah, because the court does have to figure out what would be in scope and out scope. They can still that could still be brought to court to be like, is this the official act? Like, what? Like, I mean, it is an official act.
How much more official could it be? I mean, that is the most official act, right? But the question is, like, can you extend this this newfound right of immunity, or this newfound immunity? I don't know what to call it, a right exactly, but this newfound thing that doesn't exist in the Constitution, but that the courts have created out of thin air, presidential immunity. Does that apply to when the president is failing to execute on his duties as a president, or refusing to execute on his duties as president, and loses in court thereof? And he just still says no. He just defies a court order, and they go, you can't defy the court order, or we're going to, you know, impeach you and try you for you know, contempt or whatever, violating all of these other laws. He's going to say, like, I have immunity. You can't do that. Even if you did remove him from office, he still has immunity, right?
Well, right, but you couldn't prosecute him. But they would say that the arm that the president should be charged would be through impeachment. This goes back to why these razor thin margins might make sense, because that seems to be the only thing that's been allowed. Like, that is the
impeached, right?
Yeah.
If he's impeached for violating the law, and even if there's a Republican, even Republicans in Congress, like, fuck this noise, you can't not do what we passed, right?
Right.
And they impeach him and they remove him from office, right? Which is a different thing than impeaching. He has to be voted on to remove from office. And now he's no longer president. By the way that Roberts wrote that immunity decision, he still has immunity for every act that he committed.
That's how we're done. He couldn't be prosecuted.
He couldn't be prosecuted for violating the law. So in that case, what is his incentive to ever comply with a court order of any kind? And not just him, but anybody who works for him, because he can just pardon them. It'd be a federal issue no matter what happened, right? So he could pardon them and protect them. So he could just find, like, willing lackeys, preemptively pardon them, or pardon them as they're doing it each time, order them to do a bunch of stuff that is blatantly illegal, that has been found illegal by the courts. Even John Roberts could be like, that's bullshit, you're not doing that. There could be a 9-0 majority on that, and he could still just walk right through it legally, because they created this immunity nonsense. We are in a place where that is all a possibility, and I just want to be clear that if I can think of it, there's a very good chance that Stephen Miller and those idiots have already thought of it. So they're planning this. They want these court challenges because they're hoping that they can achieve these results.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that the Congress, again, going back to that, there are laws that need to be written like around a variety, around whether it's the executive, like, there needs to be laws written, because those are laws. I mean, obviously they would get challenged in court, but that is the only other mechanism to try to do anything with that. And again, that could be futile as well. So
right, they'll just walk right through a court order. I'm very sure of it. I can't wait for the first one to happen, because once it does, it's just gonna, like, uncork this bottle, and there's no.
And we'll see. We'll then see. Now, I mean, this now test the boundaries of and the guardrails of all this stuff, and see how far they bend, and see when they end up breaking. Like,
it's the Velociraptors and the electric fence. That's exactly where we're at.
They're testing.
Yep. Speaking of testing things, okay, so this is okay. This one is called "How Do They Keep Falling for This?" Tez, you know about things like hotlines, or, like, you know, not the Drake song, but, like, you know, email addresses. You know, you can call. Hey, if you have this going on, you know, you see this in your neighborhood, call this number or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, sometimes when the Republicans in particular, they get this idea that, like, what they want to do is they want people to rat on each other. They want people to tell us where the illegal immigrants are. Here's the address. Here's the email address. Or inform
very
on
Stalinist view of things.
Yeah. It's a very, like, snitch on your kids kind of thing, or your kids snitching on you. Thought police, all of that stuff. Very Stasi, very East German. So, like, you know, hey, do you know about people doing DEI in your federal agency? Here's an email address. Send us the info that you know. Do you know about where gay people might be hiding. Here's a phone number to call. I don't know of a single example where they have actually made one of these email addresses or phone numbers, so this hasn't happened. But here's the story. An email account set up by the Trump White House to encourage government employees to snitch on their DEI promoting colleagues appears to be the target of mass spamming campaigns designed to overwhelm those administering it. How do they not see that coming?
How do they keep falling for this?
It's just like remarkable because it happens every single time. You set up this email and people, so like, oh, they set up a thing. Do you know where they're illegal immigrants? And like, to a man, everybody's calling up. Yeah, I saw this guy. I think he's from South Africa. He's been hanging out at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. You can definitely nab him. I know he overstayed his visa. He told me that on a stupid podcast. Like, come on, man. You know what? They always end up shutting them down, right?
They always get shut down. Like, I mean, more than likely, this is probably going to be the way that Iran or China hacks into something. Like, that's what I saw. I was like, okay, this is obviously going to be the backdoor for espionage, for bad actors in other countries. Because like, you could imagine the phishing attempt. How easy?
Yeah, how easy it would be to fish.
The phishing attempt it is with this. It's like, hey, if you click this link, it's going to take you to the illegal immigrants. Dupe.
Yeah, and there's like, if you're getting deluged with thousands of spam emails, you get one that looks semi-plausible.
Right.
You're going to fall for that every time. And it's, I don't know.
They're silly people, unserious people.
Another thing that people keep doing is using this email address to like sign up for all the mailing lists they could possibly think of. Just like subscribe to my newsletter. Yeah, no problem, buddy. Here you go.
Look, sometimes a very small but still resistance.
Yeah, but it takes it's like a really low effort kind of resistance that can really gum up the works. And
exactly, yeah.
But it's only one side that ever falls for this. Democrats know that this is going to happen, so they don't do it. And they just work on the problem. If you want to find, this kind of thing or whatever, you just go investigate and you go find it. Sure, it takes a while, but it's legitimate. Whereas this one is crazy. Okay, so that takes us then to this next email. If you're looking in our script, you can see this is the actual fork in the road email, copy and pasted from a few friends of mine, federal workers, who were kind enough to forward me this. Maybe you're the better person to tell this story, Tez, but what did Elon do at Twitter, and how is this exactly the same, and how can you explain this to people?
Oh, I mean, and not even there. I think Tesla, SpaceX, I think for a variety of his companies, they don't ask questions, don't care what happens to the product in the short term, but the idea is to go in, cut what he would deem as waste. In this case, it's real people, right? And all his jobs, it's real people. But he would go in and slash the workforce of said organization, said company, and then take what's left of the workforce and, I guess because he sleeps on the floor next to you, try to drive a smaller amount of individuals to produce the same, if not more, work or output, actually, in these organizations. I forget, it's a slash, and I forgot the exact name he uses. There's like I don't want to call it slash and burn, but there's something in slash that he calls this.
So what he did, though, there's two parts to this story.
Okay.
One is that OPM basically tested out earlier last week. Could they send out, OPM is the Office of Personnel Management. Again, we got to redefine all these acronyms.
Yeah.
OPM, now most of us in the Washington area, OPM does one thing. It tells us when we have to go to work or not.
Yeah.
If OPM says the federal government's closed because of snow, basically everybody follows OPM. So it's like, okay, we're off today. But they also have this job of like, managing the federal workforce, at least in the executive branch. I do want to point out that there's several congressional agencies that OPM doesn't have any jurisdiction over, whether that's the Architect of the Capitol or GAO, Congressional Budget Office, GPO, right? That's that belongs to Congress. So Capitol Police, all of those kind of things. And then they also don't have any jurisdiction over the Pentagon itself, and the service department, the Army and the Navy and all of that stuff. But they do have jurisdiction when it comes to like, administering people's retirements and stuff within DoD and all those kind of things. So they tested out, could they send an email basically system wide that would get to every single federal inbox, and they were successful. It did work. So then they used that to send this quit or be fired email, essentially.
Right.
It starts off like this. During the first week of his administration, President Trump issued a number of directives concerning the federal workforce. Among those directives, the president required that employees return to in-person work, restored accountability for employees who have policy-making authority, restored accountability for senior career executives, and reform the federal hiring process to focus on merit. As a result of the above order, the reform of the federal workforce will be significant. Then it goes on to highlight and explain some of these things. It says, if you choose to remain in your current position, we thank you for your renewed focus on serving the American people to the best of your abilities and look forward to working together as part of an improved federal workforce. At this time, we cannot give you full assurance regarding the certainty of your position or agency, but should your position be eliminated, you will be treated with dignity and be afforded the protections in place for such positions. Then it goes on to say, if you choose not to continue in your current role, we thank you for your service and will provide, you will be provided with a dignified, fair departure from the federal government utilizing a deferred resignation program. And it goes on to say you can basically quit and we'll pay you through September to, not come to work anymore. And then it says you can reply to the email with the word resign and this will go into effect. It says the last day to accept the deferred resignation program is February 6, 2025. Deferred resignation is available to all full-time federal employees except for military personnel of the armed forces, employees of the U.S. Postal Service, those in positions related to immigration enforcement, national security, and those in any other position specifically excluded by your employing agency. So it could be the air traffic controllers if they wanted to.
Right.
Okay, so this is a very threatening letter, right? The whole federal workforce got this. Everybody I know that's a Fed is like, this feels
Everyone's
like,
talking about it,
yeah. And it feels like if you don't quit, you've got a target on your back, right? What are you doing? You're standing in the way of our progress, man. And it's like, it also vastly underestimates why people take these federal jobs. Sure, some of it's for job security, but by and large, especially among the professional class of the federal workforce, they're doing a federal job for less pay than they could get doing a similar job in the private sector because they believe in the mission. And, the people who work at Fish and Wildlife care about that. They're not doing it because it's a good paying job. It's not. And I'll tell you, as the son of a Fed, it is not a great paying lifestyle, but it is a thing where if you want to serve your country and do something that you think makes a difference, it's a good opportunity to do that. The other thing about this is, as Tim Kaine, Senator of Virginia, likes to mention, personal friend of mine, likes to mention that this isn't legally binding, in any way.
That's what I was saying earlier in the show. It's not,
OPM doesn't have the authority to end programs or fire anybody like this.
Pay you out.
Or pay you out, right? This hasn't been congressionally appropriated in any way. It doesn't say anything about the retirement or what all that would be. And as Tim Kaine mentioned to everybody, Trump has stiffed everybody that's ever worked for him, every deal he's ever made. Why do you think he would adhere to this? So he don't take it, right? All the unions were like, don't take the deal. It's not legally binding. It's bullshit. And it's, but it's it's a direct threat, is it not? I mean, how else can you read this?
Yeah, it's simply put. I mean, again, just back to the flood in the zone. I mean, there is, if you don't have to go through and actually fire people or actively remove people from their federal positions, and you can get them just to leave on their own accord, why not? But then even back to the whether we're talking about planes staying in the sky or the trains running on time or bridges not collapsing, right? If you threaten these, and I think there's already people, I know folks who are like, yeah, I'm going to take my talents somewhere else because I don't even want to deal with this type of anxiety, and I'll exit out of the federal government. And that's a brain drain for the apparatus that protects the citizens of the nation. I don't know. It's just
every time I try to run that thought experiment of like, what if insert group of federal workers here dropped tools and left, the catastrophe that it would cause seems evident to me, but it also seems like a thing that the Trump people would want to have happen. Like if the train stopped running on time
or on the tracks.
They want that to be, they want that. They want that kind of pain and chaos. If the Army Corps isn't there to dredge the Mississippi, that's the thing people don't know, right? The Army Corps of Engineers spends $13 billion a year keeping the channels of the Mississippi open so that the vast amount of inland waterway traffic that makes our farmers competitive on a global market, which they otherwise wouldn't be even close because our labor costs are so much higher. If that doesn't happen, if the locks aren't maintained, if the dams aren't maintained, if the levees aren't maintained, that collapses the economy in several months. It's a catastrophic blow. I think maybe that's what they're after. I don't know. I don't know what they see as a catastrophe.
But I think as we saw with his response, how long can you, I think we saw this even with COVID, how long can you go up there and be in the driver's seat and then continue to deflect blame and people not like, I mean, the reason he lost in 2020 was because of COVID. It's simple and plain. Like that is the simple reason for that. No, there's no other reason that he would have like.
Do you think that there's any Trump supporters who can be convinced by anything, including their own financial ruin, of the reality? Or if he tells them that this is because of what Joe Biden did, will they believe that?
No, I don't. I think at a certain point, especially when you move towards this like dictator, fascist, like totalitarian, like image, the buck stops with you. It's the weird, it's almost like, I mean, and granted, there's been other people and other dictators that try to deflect the blame, and he's great at that. But I do think the American society, again, if the planes are falling out the sky, someone has to pay for that. And the person who have to, and whether or inflation continues to stay high, as we know, like the Feds kept rates where they were at, right? No dropping of the rates. Like if those prices don't come down, at least everything I've always seen specifically around the economy, but I think safety will fall into that as well. When people don't feel safe, I think they will go and start asking questions. And now whose arm do they go run into? And I think that becomes my question for, and I think the Democrats seem to be on, they're looking at some of these things and they're like, all right, maybe this is an opening to create, I don't know, the snowball down the hill to like get, but how do you become the persuasive option for people when they are afraid or when they are fed up that people are like, hey, we want to go and try that. And I think Doug, I mean, he had great points to that, right? Like people don't believe in that and they feel like they're in this abusive relationship, and there needs to be something for people to run into. If not, they will run into the next strong man who looks, because right, eventually this gets to a point where like their own administration says this person's losing his marbles. Like how far is it before like JD Vance gets a group of folks together to put in like the 25th Amendment?
25th Amendment.
Yeah, I mean, when like that, there's come on now, what do we do? We're maybe a year and a half out from that. Like maybe so. Eventually people will look like they will be afraid. Things won't be working. Things, again, like there's so many the tentacles of the government, which I guess this is why people want this person to strip it all down. The tentacles of the government are so vast. They touch everything in the society. And I think what the government needs to figure out a way to do is to figure out a way to continue to help people, but almost make it like people are doing it on their own. Because you almost got to have Americans feeling like we did it without the government, and like they go like it's all our, and like you almost have to like, even if they know they're being helped, you can't let it seem that you got to buy like this whole idea of like our bootstraps, we pulled ourselves up, we did it. I didn't get any help to do that, and I think that's what somehow they need to figure that out. But yeah, no, I don't like what these government workers like. They're voters too. I mean, they're voters too. The federal workforce.
There's 2.3 million of them. I only want to challenge you on this.
Yeah,
I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Iran and Zimbabwe.
Mhm.
Okay, in both instances, Iran is currently in a situation where their economy is in absolute shambles. It isn't a safe place by any stretch
Right.
in terms of infrastructure or in terms of being attacked by Israel or anything like that. The government cannot keep the people safe, and it can't keep the trains running on time. And yet, when the people complain or cry out and say this is not going well, the Iranian government always says what? It's because of the great Satan America. America is doing this to us, and they deflect. And if the buck stops here, the buck has stopped at the feet of the Ayatollahs for
Yeah.
40 years, and they still go, no, it's what the Americans are doing. And Mugabe did that successfully for several decades, where inflation was rampant, the place wasn't safe, the country, the economy had collapsed, even though it had so many opportunities. And every time that the people said, hey, this is not working, we want a change, we want something else, he would say, this is because of what the Americans are doing to you. And
Hold up, whoa, not
Yep.
Americans, not Americans.
I'm sorry, the West.
No, not the West either. He always blamed the white Afrikaners. He was still stuck in the whatever war that he was in.
Rhodesians.
Yeah, so he was mainly focusing on that. He was never focusing on, like I said, many moons ago, whenever there was elections, he always goes to those rural areas and have this weird speech about how the white man's going to take your land and doing this and doing that, and they believed him. That's
Right.
how he got them. So, and that's kind of like what Trump is doing. He's getting out, like we've been saying this back in 2016. He's taking every known dictator's playbook, and I just found out like a clip from his speech from the inauguration. He took a snippet out of Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy thing, and it was like, wait, you got this out of Bane? Because he said something where it has that resemblance of it, and it's like, dude, you have no originality whatsoever. You have no empathy. That's for one thing. And he's just going to keep doing stupid shit over and over and over again. And because he wants to be like every known dictator that's out there, knowing full well that they never last very long. And this American culture is not going to fully accept that.
Yeah, but I don't know what they're going to do. Like when they don't accept, quote unquote, don't accept. What are they going to do?
But
like,
here's the thing: in those two other countries, there are still self-correcting mechanisms in this country that are available. Those are in both of those countries. I don't the vote, at least here, right? And I don't know what that looks like in 2 years, and right. I mean, there's special elections that just happened and other people won, right? Now there's that. So that is the self-correcting mechanism in the United States is, again, back to voting. That's what allows you to do it. You vote this person in, you should have the ability to vote that person out, right? Until that is fully removed in the sense of like visibly, where it's like, oh, they are completely, like, for lack of a better word, rigged. Then I could see where this thing continues on. But until then, there's even self-correcting mechanisms for, again, like we just mentioned, removing him from office if his own cabinet, like there is something there that's available.
Yeah, but we saw that happen in Soviet Russia too, and right, they would off each other and take power, and so you're not being true to the thing or whatever, and then they just redefine what true to the thing meant in terms of their own personal goals and all this. It's all personal. It's all grievance.
Are we Soviet Russia yet? Are we Zimbabwe
not yet?
Are we Iran yet? I don't think we're there
yet. The key word there, though. I mean, the slide can go fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree.
But let's say this. I think America has been well established enough to where everyone says they are the patriarch, the image of what democracy and democracy voting should be, has been for as long as they've been a country, or recognized as a country. Let's put it that way. Back to Zimbabwe, there was moments where it could have been that way. It's just the simple fact that around a time where Mugabe was just want to stay in power, you have to literally talk to the man and wonder, is like, why do you want to stay here? What's your purpose? You You were the first. You were once you got independence, you were the nation's first president, and you should have just said, "Hey, I did my time. I got us through what we got through. It's time to set this in a progression." He didn't do that. He stayed in there for over 30 years, and I like I said, living there and talking to some of the locals, they could not figure it out. It's like they were saying, like what you were saying. It's like they're not benefiting for what he put out there. Everything he keeps saying wasn't true. And it got to the point where it's like they kept getting frustrated. And then as it goes generation after generation, they just wanted change. They wanted to improve. And it's like, again, the inflation was ridiculous. I mean, kid you not. If you went there, when I was living there, pretty much getting a loaf of bread was like pretty much a nickel based off of their money, the exchange rate wise. Now it would roughly be like, again, pretty much like maybe $5 or $10, but to them it's expensive.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is ridiculous, and they literally had to create a
Different
new
bills.
note to try to compensate that.
Yeah, and they just took zeros off and they just like reset the currency. I know. But I'm saying like that. What is different about Mugabe and Trump in that regard? Like Trump doesn't want to give up power either. He's already fought a violent effort to try to stay in power. He's likely to want to stay in power in perpetuity. I don't see this being a thing where it's, he doesn't have any policy goal. His only policy goal is to be in charge and be in power. That part to me does seem very similar.
Here's the difference. The main difference is the people. The people and how he was able to manipulate, control it. Once he is pretty much, even when before Mugabe took power, even when the Afrikaners or roadies, as we call them, yeah, I used to live there, so I should say roadies, because once it was known as Rhodesia, they pretty much were able to manipulate the media. And meaning the fact is, like I said, a story a while back to you guys was, they had the ability to have people needing licenses to have a TV or have a radio, because without it, you'd be penalized. And again, that is about controlling information. And then in addition to that, they're broadcasting ZBC. That's Zed with a Z. They literally, yes, the British way. Pretty much even the news information was kind of controlled. They edited and manipulated how things were presented in various ways. My dad said it was like, oh, ZBC is good information. Yeah, it was good news because it's just telling you what it is. But really, it's like it's kind of had its own manipulation, because they're telling you what you need. They're not telling you what you need to hear. They're telling you, hey, this is what's going on because this is what we're told. And there were some few reporters who were actually let go or removed because of certain things. They felt like enough was enough, and we want to tell what's actually going on. And especially when things got, even after I left, when a lot of the youth was finally had enough and started protesting and stuff like that, they wanted to tell you, hey, we need to do some things here. And Mugabe is like, no, we're not having that. And he would shut them down instantly. My main point is like Mugabe was able to manipulate people for so long that they had to, and because they were already manipulated from the start.
Yeah, if they had the internet from the beginning, it would have been different, maybe.
Yeah,
well, no.
But here, what I'm saying is, here, when you have people here who is like, look, we know who you are. We've known you for over 40 years, what you do and don't do. We are able to figure things out a lot more, and we're not fully manipulated, except for those who don't read, don't really do a good, proper deep dive of what not only this person does, or what this person is about, and what they need to do, how to understand what their agenda is of how to run this country. I knew full well, I've talked to people before who voted for Trump in 2016, and I'm literally looking at them, they're my age, and I was like, dude, do you remember Trump steaks, Trump airlines? Do you remember how they fell apart? That's how he is. He killed an entire city. I keep repeating this because that's the sad part. when you keep repeating over and over again what this man has done, and you don't see it, hear it, or understand it, that's why you got these dumb nuts keep voting for him, because they don't care, or they really feel like it's all a blur. No, that never happened, or whatever.
Well, so if control of the media and control of the information is the difference between Trump and Mugabe, I hate to break it to you, but he's talking about revoking licenses, trying to imprison journalists. He's got Zuckerberg and Bezos and these guys all kissing his ass. He's got Elon, who is controlling a vast amount of information with Twitter. It is. If he could, he would do that, and I believe he's going to make an effort at it.
Well,
but the thing is when you still have real journalists still around,
exactly,
as long as you still have those of like 60 Minutes or MSNBC.
What happens when he throws Maddow in prison? I mean, what?
Well, that's the question about information networks, right? And these technologies change the way information is spread, and thus either allowing something like if you take something like Soviet Russia, right, or like just the Soviet Empire that they had, right? Those are closed information networks, right? It's in the center we see that Trump is trying to push that. The benefits, right, or you say the democratic nation, is that all these information networks are open, and then you can have the state-run media, but there is also the other, to your point. And now I think with everybody having a computer or a phone, they can, right? You can be your own network. Now that probably has its own issues with it, but again, these are open information networks where anybody can kind of go out there and challenge, right? And hopefully the business model still is that, let's say the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, or Twitter, or Facebook, with obviously retreating from news, they can choose to suppress other stories. But then there's another, as long as it's still open, there should be somewhere else that is able to say, hey, no, this is what our sources are saying, this is what the truth is, and people will go to that.
I want all of that. I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm saying that the decentralized media and the fact that we're here broadcasting this and doing all that, those things are hedges against this. I'm just saying that the goal of the Trump people is the same as the goal of Mugabe, and so that if the response to eventually his policies will be harmful enough that the people will feel it and revolt against it, I believe that amongst the Trump faithful and amongst what he hopes the world to look like, that he could do things that are damaging to his supporters and then blame some boogeyman, whether it's Joe Biden or Obama or whatever, and continue to then harm them and never pay any consequence in terms of his level of support. That's what I'm saying.
It'll only go for so long.
Yeah, but
how long? That's the question.
Yeah, as long as there's the fact checkers are still out there. I mean, they're going to be out there forever. Because
for now, I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying that people are not imagining a Zimbabwe in the United States, but I believe that it is worth imagining that to be ready to combat it. And if you see the incremental creep, oh, he just took down one newspaper. It's just one newspaper. There's 600 other ones. It should be fine, right? But it's not, because even one is it's setting the policy, it's setting a pattern, it's starting to create the space for this thing to happen over and over and over again. That's what
corporate America also thinks that they discount that there are obviously close to 50% of the people in this country who don't believe in this, right? And corporate America has now said, oh, they've said that this is the mandate for the country. I think that's another shoe that could end up dropping, where people do change their habits. Maybe there are actual boycotts. Eventually, people will have to organize at some point. Yeah. That is going to be the only way. And
do they organize peacefully, or do they organize in militias? And that's the thing that I'm concerned about.
There's going to be a combination of both, like there always been. Has there always been in this damn country? It's never that's not, none of this is new.
No, but it's a different flavor.
It is a different flavor, and I don't want to get discounted, but the root of it all is.
We're still trying to battle a white supremacist ethno state. That's still the case here.
Yeah.
So speaking of white supremacists, we've got Elon, right? And what he did with OPM and sending out this email of like, get lost or get fired. There is a bit of a question about like, did the Trump people even really know that he was doing this, right? So there's a story.
He's not the government. Like, I don't even know how he's allowed.
He seems to think he is, right?
I have not taken. I don't think he should be. Where he can't have an office, and even the chief of staff has been very like upfront, like, oh, you're not having an office in the West Wing. Maybe they put you in the executive building over there, but
they put him in the NDS or whatever, the National Digital Service, or the whatever, the USDS Digital Service is where they house the Doge, right? And they're giving him a position there. The USDS actually is a really good service, right? They're the sort of techno wizards of the government. There's some great podcasts explaining sort of how this got set up and how they brought in people from the computer science world and private sector and were able to be wage competitive. That was like a big thing that they had.
You got to be for those jobs.
Yeah, well, right. So they got all these exemptions about how much they could pay and how they could pay them and stuff in order to be competitive. But in any case, so Elon, here's the Post has this, and several other outlets have something roughly equivalent here. Elon's influence over traditionally nonpartisan agency, that's OPM, that oversees the federal workforce, culminated in the government's stunning proposal to say, get lost or get fired, and we're going to pretend that we can pay you out, which they can't. And it seems that maybe the Trump people even were a little taken aback by this. They didn't necessarily know that this was coming ahead of time. The proposal, emailed late in the day to many of the nation's 2.3 million federal workers, blindsided some advisors to President Trump, including officials in the budget office and agencies that typically would be consulted in advance of such a monumental change of personnel and spending. The extent of Elon's imprint could deepen questions about the legality and credibility of this resignation offer letter that they sent out to the civil service. Musk and OPM have said that workers who resign will be paid through September 30th, will not have to return to in-person work, and will mostly be permitted to take administrative leave. But many federal employees fear that their agencies won't honor those promises because that's not legal. Top political officials in the White House budget office were not consulted about the offer. Several people familiar with the matter said. Neither were the agency's career staff. The career staff at OPM also were not involved in drafting the proposal. Spokespeople for OPM, the budget office, and Doge declined comment, and Musk did not respond to a request for comment. So, like, did Elon run an end run around the Trump people? Is that the friction point? Like,
or does he think he's doing what he was asked to be done? Like,
yeah, right. The Proud Boys thought they were doing what they were asked to do too.
Yeah, I mean, this just all comes down to the courts, right? Because even if you say that this is legal for the firing and they've made these problems for the payouts, where does that come from?
Yeah, I don't know.
Where does that, how does that get, because now you've made it a legal binding. Like, let's just say a few people have said, like, I'm assuming there's a few people who might have been like, all right, cool. And you don't get paid, then are you now suing the government? Like,
well, and so keep in mind, there's like another bunch of, there's more facets to this, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Elon's argument is, well, we're just going to pay them the salary that they would have earned previously, but they just don't have to come to work, right? And so the money's already appropriated. But that's not the way that the law is written. The law is written to appropriate the money to do a job. It's not to do nothing and get paid for it. So if you know anything about working for the federal government, you know you're not allowed to work for free. You're also not allowed to give anything to the federal government for free. So you can't like bring in stuff from home and use it or whatever. That's because that's an attempt to influence policy maybe, or an undue use of resources and all these other kind of things, the legal aspects of it. So there's that piece. How legally binding this is, how you could go to court, it's not entirely clear. But let's say you do go to court and somebody has to, and you win, who has to pay that? That's the taxpayers that end up having to foot at the bill of all of these lawsuits. So it's like, if you're Trump or if you're any of these people in the administration, you're willing to break these laws and you're willing to get sued in court and potentially have to lose in court, you're not personally on the hook for the money anyway. The taxpayers are going to be on the hook for the money. So they don't really care. There's no penalty to getting this wrong for them. All that is to say that this is an example of the just consistent chaos that is going to permeate our lives for the next however long this maniac is in power, because it's governing by whim, it's governing by choice of the day. It's just like, it's crazy, and it is not how functional democracies stand. And we got through it before, but the institutions are shakier now, and the belief and the faith of the country in those institutions is shakier now. And it may be why the Russians love Trump, why the Chinese love Trump, why all of these people love Trump, is because it's not his end goals that they necessarily are after. It's just his destruction of shared common reality and democracy, small d democracy in general, that they're after. If you can get a country where people believe that all government is bullshit, that all politicians are liars, that everything you see on the news is fake or partisan or whatever, you basically have created a society that no longer is cohesive. It doesn't hold together. It's not a nation state. And that's what they're after. That is the goal of the Russians and the Chinese and everybody else who's out to get us. Whether it's Trump driving that, or whether they could find a liberal person who was doing the same thing and create that kind of chaos, they back that too. So we're in week 2, man. This is gonna get very, very, very chaotic. We've already gone 2 hours here talking about this, and and I only wrote an hour of show.
Exactly.
So just, buckle up, I guess. I don't know what else to say. You have any closing thoughts on OPM's get fired or get lost?
No, it's there will be some type of repercussion for this. I don't think it's clear now, but I think eventually it will kind of become clear, because again, these are people's livelihoods, and the court challenges and then the subsequent responses to the court challenges will really tell us a lot. So.
And I just want to be clear, if you are a federal worker and you're considering this, please don't take it. And also, if you are a federal worker and you think that not taking this offer puts a target on your back, it absolutely does. They are after all of the federal workers. They don't want this stuff to exist. They don't want the missions to be there that people are so willing to go out and work for. And we thank you. So, if you're listening to this and you have a chance, hug a Fed.
Yeah.
Give them a little love. Buy them a sandwich. Tell them you appreciate their service. Thank them for their service. It's not just a military thing.
I can't believe he was elected to shut down the government.
Because the people who voted for him don't think the government does anything for them.
I mean, could have just let it shut down in December.
They could have, but they didn't. All right. All that is to say, we've come to the end of the show, which means we want to say thank you to Doug for hanging out with us and being so funny. So go check him out on his Instagram page. We'll send the links to that when we send out the clips to the show. But you definitely want to check out. He's doing a show in Lynchburg, as you mentioned, coming up 28th February. I want to say thank you to our radio partners, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I want to say thanks to NOTN for keeping us on for another week, maybe. Don't know, haven't checked. We want to say thank you to our home on the interwebs, coplaymedia.com. And thanks, as always, to our family here at Beltway Radio for making us sound as smooth as a Gitmo sunrise. All right, where can everybody get you on the socials?
You can find me at DC Cortez at Blue Sky.
There you go.
Notice.
That's it. It's not baseball season yet. He'll be back. Don't worry.
No, I won't.
No? Oh, he's sworn it off. All right, you can find me and the show on the Twitter at ChipChatRR. If you've got ideas for what to name the detention center at Gitmo, please let us know. You can find me or the show and on Instagram, Facebook at Rip ChipChat. And you can find me back on Blue Sky under my old Twitter handle at Chef Chip, where we're getting a lot of likes and getting a lot of followers. We're several hundred now, I think. So that's we're moving up. Appreciate those follows. Please like and subscribe, or whatever the hell they say these days. And you can, of course, find us every Thursday night here on Beltway Radio and Beyond. We are happily moving through season 10. If you can, or year 10, I guess. I don't even know how to count seasons. Year 10.
Year 10
officially starts next week.
Year of the stream.
Yes. Year of the snake right now. Right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. All right, and you can find us here. We'll be back next week. I'm Chip. That's Tez. That's Brian in the background. Thank you to Doug. You've been listening to Chip Chat on Beltway Radio and Beyond.
Sweeps.
Chip Chat Radio. We got so much, so give you the news in case you didn't know. Keep the public well informed of the topic. Sometimes the news today is hard to process. That's why Chip and Tez will help you out, let you know what we're all about. We may tell jokes, we may drink a cup.